In 1994, I had the opportunity to achieve one of the many goals I had set for myself as a photographer, and that was to see and photograph a United States president. Back then, it was a very rare occasion to see and have access to a president, so when I heard that the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, was coming to Orlando for a political pep rally to support his son Jeb, I knew this was my chance to photograph a president. Jeb was running for Florida's governor position, and the rally was being held in downtown Orlando on Church Street in front of the famous Rosie O'Grady's entertainment complex. The fact that the event was outside was a big plus for me, since I could use the natural lighting and wouldn't need a flash, which would be very disruptive. The rally was held around 5 p.m., so I had to rush from my construction job to make it there in time to see the president. Knowing that I would be getting there at the last minute and would most likely have to take a position way in the back of the crowd, I decided to take my telephoto lens so I could get a full-frame shot of the speakers. That lens was made by Century, and it was 650 millimeters and had a 6.8 aperture at the widest setting. Here are a couple pictures of it on my tripod as I show Misty what I see when I look through the lens at her. I use this lens mostly for surfing photography, and it worked well for other sports when a lot of reach was needed. I liked it for photographing models because the combination of the aperture and focal length produced a very pleasing, diffused background that was popular with the magazines back then. Because of its size, it needed to be held steady with the use of a tripod for best results. Unfortunately, a tripod can't be used in every situation, and I'd have to use it handheld. One example would be at the Gator Nationals, where the dragsters move so fast it is virtually impossible to follow the cars while the camera is on a tripod. So I held it in my hands and took pictures like this that are perfectly acceptable. Since I would be rushing to make the rally and would most likely be in a big crowd, I left my tripod at home and would be holding the camera in my hands. I had just 2 rolls of film, 1 roll of black and white and 1 roll in color. Both were ISO 400, which would help me with the low light at that location. Shooting in the shadows of the downtown buildings in the late afternoon light, I'd be extremely lucky to get at least 1/60th of a second shutter speed, and needed at least 1/500th of a second to get sharp pictures while hand holding the camera. I knew my success rate under those conditions would be very low, but all I wanted was just 1 or 2 really good shots of the president. Rosie O'Grady's at the Church Street Entertainment Complex was built by entrepreneur Bob Snow in 1974 at the Church Street Railroad Station, and at one time it was considered to be the 4th largest attraction in Florida. Disney would copy Bob Snow's business model with their own nightclub district called Pleasure Island, and Universal followed with City Walk. Together they ended Church Street Station's popularity and directly led to its demise in the late 1990s. I got to Church Street and luckily found a parking spot within running distance of the rally. I don't remember having to go through any kind of security check or barricade. The event was free, and everyone was gathered on the Church Street Road, and there was a short stage set up in front of Rosie O'Grady's. It wasn't a huge crowd, less than 1,000 I guess, but I was definitely not getting anywhere close to the stage like I had anticipated, so I found a spot across the street from the stage that would be a good distance for my fixed telephoto lens. Barbara Bush was just being introduced, and she stepped up to the podium in her trademark blue dress and giant faux pearl necklace. She got a loud cheer from the audience as I tried to get a shot through the crowd. Barbara said her son Jeb will be a great governor because he wants to give the children of Florida what he wants for his own children: good schools, safe streets, and a life without prejudice. That drew another loud cheer from the crowd that clearly adored her. I found another angle and was able to get a few shots of President Bush seated beside Barbara as he listened to her speech. Then she introduced her husband as a man she loved more than life itself, even though he can't hold a job. And with that, the president stepped up to the podium and got his own roar from the crowd. This was my chance to get the picture of a president that I wanted, but I needed a clearer view. So I stepped up on a planter that put me a few feet above the crowd and gave me an unobstructed view of the podium and a clear shot at the president. Now I'm holding the camera in my hands, and it's very long, and I have to hold one hand down the barrel of the lens to try and keep it steady, like I'm doing here at Daytona photographing an IROC race. As you can see by the video, it kind of looks like I'm holding a rifle. When President Bush started to speak at the podium, I held my camera up and looked through my lens to see him looking directly at me, and he paused his speech. Almost at the same time, I saw 3 men rushing towards me from 3 different directions. It was at that moment I realized the president thought I was pointing a rifle at him, and the Secret Service thought the same. As soon as I saw the men rushing me, I slowly pointed the lens down and held the camera up with one hand so the Secret Service could clearly see what I was holding. They got about 15 feet from me and realized that I wasn't holding a rifle and saw that it was a camera. They were okay with me going back to taking pictures. While the moment was quite surreal to have spooked the president and having Secret Service rush me, it was very brief and the crowd was none the wiser. President Bush continued his speech and I continued taking pictures. I used up the black and white roll of film I started with and loaded the roll of color film for a few more shots. President Bush hyped up his son Jeb as the next governor of Florida, much to the delight of the crowd that had gathered at this old-fashioned political pep rally with a stage full of dignitaries which included the 41st President of the United States. In the end, I got the picture I wanted, and it's this one, where the president is looking right at me. The memory of what was happening at that moment makes it special to me, and an experience this photographer will never forget. Jeb lost the election to Lawton Chiles for governor of Florida in 1994, but he'd run again in 1998 and defeated Buddy McKay to become governor. He was re-elected in 2002 to serve a total of 8 years as Florida's governor. I went on to enjoy several more nights on Church Street at places like Mako's that was a super fun bar to end the night, and of course the Church Street Hooters where I'd usually start my evenings with dinner while chatting up my next model discovery like Terry Harrison in the pinkish bikini. I never thought I'd get my president picture on Church Street, but it happened, and I achieved that photography goal. Also on my list was photographing an astronaut, with getting one from a moon mission at the top of my list. I went on to meet, get an autograph, and photograph 2 of the greatest. Space pioneer John Glenn, I've got a nice video of me getting to shake his hand, and Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. I'll save those stories for another video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this story from one photographer's life.